Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we, a bunch of online friends, get together around a virtual water cooler, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. Now, normally the John Campea Show is done live. However, it's not going to be done live today. We're having some streaming internet problems again in my home studio here. So unfortunately, we're not live today, but we're still here and we're going to talk about movie news today. So with that out of the way, let's talk about a couple things off the top before we get to our main subjects. First thing up here. Everybody knows that the new streaming service from DC is coming. Now, they're going to be leading off with the new Titan show. Unfortunately, they dropped that trailer at Comic-Con. It was hot, steaming garbage. And I said, I'm probably going to put off getting the streaming service until maybe 6 months in. We'll wait and see until they have some more content. But I've always said the one show they've got coming that really has my attention was the fact that they were saying they're going to be doing a Swampthing show. I find that fascinating. I think that's great. And today, even though up until now we haven't heard anything about it, they made a big announcement saying they've got a director, at least for the first episode, and it's usually a TV show's first episode that sets the tone for the show, and that's going to be Underworld director Len Wiseman. Now, Len Wiseman hasn't just done the Underworld series. He's also done like the first episodes for shows like Lucifer, for shows like Sleepy Hollow, which I really quite enjoyed myself. Now, and of course, he's also been in the news a little bit lately because he directed the one Die Hard movie, but he's going to be directing the new Die Hard movie that they're going to be starting production on pretty soon called McClane. And that's the Die Hard movie that takes place over two different time periods. We're going to have a younger John McClane in the 70s, and we're going to have the current age Bruce Willis John McClane, the one we know and love so much. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't know that I'd be all that excited about Len Wiseman directing a Swamp Thing movie, per se. But he's done some pretty good things with television. He also did the first episode for The Gifted, which is the new kind of X-Men universe TV show that I thought looked terrible, and then I ended up really liking it. So he's shown that he can do some pretty interesting things with television. You combine that with a character like Swamp Thing. And I got to say, I was already interested in a Swamp Thing show. I am just now doubly so. And I think having Len Wiseman attached to that, again, if it was a movie, maybe not so interested, but he's done a lot of good things with the television stuff. So I think this is intriguing. All right. Also coming up here, it was just announced this morning, one of the best films of the year so far, one of the very few animated films in history to join the $1 billion club, Incredibles 2, is coming out on home video and Blu-ray and all that sort of stuff. But one of the things they announced today was something that's going to get a lot of people interested. One of the most popular things in the movie was Edna Mode and Baby Jack Jack and their whole thing together. And right from the moment that movie came out, a lot of people were getting online saying, give me a short film of Edna and Baby Jack Jack. Well, they were ahead of us because they have just announced this morning that on the upcoming Incredibles 2 Blu-ray release, we will be getting an Auntie Edna with Jack Jack short film. And it's going to be a short film that looks at that evening that Edna and Jack Jack spent together where she was babysitting him that we don't see in the movie. All we know is that Mr. Incredible drops Jack Jack off and then he comes by and picks the baby up later. But they're going to actually show us a short film showing that stuff. Now, other things they said we're going to get some kind of featurette on it, being narrated by Samuel Jackson, all about Frozone. I think it was called The Coolest Guy in the Room or something like that. Anyway, this is something that's going to get a lot of people excited. Now, bonus features on Blu-rays and DVDs, there's a group of us that get pretty excited about hearing about those, but most average film fans, it's not that big of a deal. I have a feeling that this is a special feature that a lot of people who may not normally buy the movie for home may get it now just for this short film. Because like I said, that was one of a lot of people's favorite scenes in the movie. To see a short film with Edna Mode and Baby Jack Jack together is great. That moment in the film when Incredible comes back to pick up Jack Jack and they're walking down the hallway with Edna and Baby Jack Jack, and Jack Jack's got that smug look on his face, walking like this, just like Edna. I just about died laughing. I thought that was great. So yeah, that's something we got to keep our eyes on, and it looks absolutely fantastic to me. All right. Also off the top here, before we get into the main topics, is the fact that we've known for a while now that Denis Villeneuve, the guy who directed Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival and a bunch of other films, including Prisoners, the dude is one of the hottest directors in Hollywood right now. They've been talking for a while about the fact that he's going to be doing a Dune movie. He's going to be doing a Dune remake, and it's been coming along slowly. So slowly that recently a lot of people were starting to wonder, hey, is this movie even still happening? Was the box office failure of Blade Runner 2049, even though the movie was quite good, did that derail Dune? Well, then a few weeks ago, we found out that Academy Award nominee Timothée Chalamet has been named to the lead role in the film. He's, of course, going to be the lead guy in the movie. And now we just found out another new casting is at least close to being signed. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Rebecca Ferguson from Mission Impossible films and the most recent Mission Impossible Fallout, and of course she was in The Greatest Showman as well, is in talks. And she would play Timothée Chalamet's mother, which is a key character in the story overall as well. So now, not only did we get the naming of a lead, we've also got some additional cast being added. It looks like, I think it's safe to say at this point, that this Dune film is going to roll ahead and it is going to move forward and we're going to get this movie. And I'm very excited about it. Like, I'm already excited about it because you got Denis Villeneuve directing it. Great. You got Timothée Chalamet. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. But anyway, you've got him starring in it, which he was amazing in Call Me By Your Name. And now he's got this new movie coming out with Steve Carell. I believe it's called My Beautiful Boy, or just Beautiful Boy, something like that. The first trailer came out, and it looks like he's going to get another Academy Award nomination. So we got that. And now you're adding Rebecca Ferguson. And I'll tell you what, I did not know what I felt about them introducing kind of a new quasi-love interest, although they didn't instantly make it a love interest for Tom Cruise. But obviously, if you've seen Fallout, you know that's what it's kind of evolved into. She was great on screen. You believe that she's powerful, serious, deadly. You should believe she is a top international spy, assassin, whatever it is you want to call her. You totally buy her in this role. And I believe she added a great deal to the Mission Impossible films that she was in. And then again, one of my sleeper hits of the last couple of years, of course, was Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman. Now, she didn't do the singing in it. It's one of the best vocal performances I've ever heard in a movie. There's a song that her character sings called Never Enough. And it's just, it just makes your jaw hit the floor. It's so powerful. Now, she didn't do the singing of it, but her performance in it was great. And I've really enjoyed her in that. Hearing that she's going to be joining this film. Look, a lot of us film fans were already very excited about it. I think our excitement just went through the roof a couple more notches. All right, let's move on now to our main topics. How do we pick out our main topics here? Well, actually, it's kind of simple. You pick out our main topics by emailing your topics and questions to me simply at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Email me, john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, and maybe you'll see your topic or question pop up here on the John Campea Show. All right, let's get into it with the first email. And the first email today comes to us from Dylan Vanderween, who writes, "Hey, John, I just wanted to know if you've had a chance to see the trailer for Instant Family. I was really surprised by it, and I thought it looked wonderful. What do you think?" Yes, I have. I saw it, and I thought it looked great. I'll be honest with you, I read the synopsis for it, right? And Mark Wahlberg, I like Mark Wahlberg. I like Rose Byrne. I mean, she's great in Neighbors and a bunch of other things that she's in. But, you know, okay, Mark Wahlberg in kind of a family comedy. It's like, what's that Vin Diesel one? Like The Babysitter, and The Rock had one. Like The Rock had like a babysitter movie. Vin Diesel had a babysitter movie. It kind of, reading the outline for it at first, or reading the byline for it a while ago, I was like, okay, this looks like a useless movie. I'm not interested in this at all. And then the trailer dropped yesterday. And I admit, I did not jump to watch the trailer. I said, yeah, I'll watch that later. I didn't really care. And then it wasn't until last night that I had a couple minutes and said, okay, I'll watch this trailer. Loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it had emotional impact. I think it looks like it's going to be funny. I mean, there's one line that I have said myself, and you know, when a movie can strike a chord with you personally and something you can relate with, you get attached to it a bit more. But there's that one line where like the adoption agency people turn over the pictures of the little brother and the little sister, and Mark Wahlberg's like, that's not fair, why would you do that? Because the kids are so adorable and cute. It's like, I have totally done that. I have totally done that myself. Not with adoption agencies, but like when Ann and I would go to pet shelters or something, and I can't meet the dogs because I'll take them all home. You know, one of those things. But seriously, I think it looks like it's going to be funny, but they touch on a couple of issues in there that I thought were really key. It feels like it's got real emotion in it. It looks like it's not going to sugarcoat some things, do them in a lighthearted way, but not necessarily sugarcoat things at the same time. And I'll be honest with you guys, I liked this trailer a whole lot more than I ever thought I possibly would. Now, I don't know that the movie's going to be any good or not, and maybe it's just a decent trailer. We've seen lots of good trailers to terrible movies, and maybe that's the case here. But if we're just talking about the trailer was top-notch to me. I quite enjoyed it. What did you guys think? Have you had a chance to see this trailer yet? If so, jump down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on to email number 2. And the second email today comes to us from Patreon supporter David Chance. And first of all, thank you so much, David, for being a Patreon supporter. Greetings, John. One of your fellow pundits said because of Henry Cavill's box office that he is not a real movie star. In your opinion, what makes one a movie star? All right, thanks a lot for the question, David. Let me just say right up front here, I have no idea who you're talking about. I legitimately don't. I have no idea who you're talking about when you said a fellow film pundit of mine. I have no idea who you're talking about. Look, I consider myself a fairly smart person, but I say some pretty stupid things sometimes. Even though I consider myself a fairly smart person, you're probably a fairly smart person, but you'll also probably be the first to admit you probably say some pretty stupid things sometimes, right? It's part of the human condition. It's what we all do. I have no idea who this film pundit is you're referring to, but it's a pretty stupid thing to say. And I guess today is their turn to say that. To suggest that Henry Cavill is not an actual movie star because of box office? Really? That's your measuring stick is box office? I can name you 2 films right now that he's starred in that have, made over $600 million. I can name you 3 films of his that he starred in that's made over $500 million. He did, as much as it was disappointing and it lost money, Man from U.N.C.L.E. made over $100 million. When you name, there's a reason why if you say his name and he's attached to The Witcher, boom, everybody's talking about it. Because everybody knows who Henry Cavill is. He's a presumptive frontrunner to play James. I don't know that he's going to end up playing James Bond. They came this close to getting him to be James Bond before. You want to suggest to me Henry Cavill is not a movie star? Really? Now, somebody might foolishly try to suggest, well, John, you can't count those 3 movies that made over $500 million because those were franchise movies. You're talking Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, those are franchise movies. You can't count those. He's no movie star. Really? Let me ask you this. Is Robert Downey Jr. a movie star? No, seriously, is he a movie star? Everybody is, of course, nodding yes, but all he basically does now is big franchise films. That's all he does. The last non-franchise film he did, The Judge, total flop. Total flop. The one before that, The Soloist, that he did with Jamie Foxx, total flop. Absolute flop. Now, if all you're going to look at is his MCU stuff, okay, and then his Sherlock Holmes franchise stuff, okay. But if you looked at his stuff that's not franchise stuff, but of course Robert Downey Jr. is a big movie star. Obviously he is. To suggest that Henry Cavill is not is just a stupid thing to say. Probably said by somebody very smart. And like I said, we could sit here for the next 3 weeks making a big list of the stupid things I've said and the stupid things you've said. And we've all said stupid things. So that's no knock on whoever said this. But it is a dumb thing to say. Henry Cavill is absolutely, legitimately a movie star. It's not like he's famous. It's not like he was a former pro athlete and that's why he's famous. It's not like he's some reality TV star and that's why he's famous. It's not like he was some singer and that's why he's famous. We all know Henry Cavill because of his acting. That's why he's a household name. That's why casting agents line up to get him. That's why he's been in films that make a lot of money and some films that don't make a lot. But guess what? So does Leonardo DiCaprio, so does Brad Pitt, so does Robert Downey Jr. The suggestion that Henry Cavill is not a movie star is preposterous. It's absolutely preposterous. So, but then again, I've said lots of preposterous things, so it's no skin off anybody's nose. All right, let's move on now to topic number 3. And the third emailed in topic today comes to us from Jesse Heyman, who writes, the Captain Marvel details in the Entertainment Weekly magazine feature said that they are skipping the origin story. I think for a character general audiences know almost nothing about, it's unnecessary. And origin stories lay solid foundations to bounce off on. Though repetitive sometimes, what do you think? All right, so what he's referring to is this EW article that came out that said, the Captain Marvel origin, that's not what this movie's going to be. It's not going to be an origin story. We've seen origin stories over and over and over again. Now, the point that they're bringing up here is that, well, wouldn't this be a good time to use an origin story? I mean, it lays the foundation for the character, and a lot of people really don't know anything about Captain Marvel. Here's the thing. A skilled filmmaker can let you get to know who a character is and what they're all about without necessarily doing an origin story. Let's take one of the few TV shows I watch. I watch Chicago PD. All right, this is a show I watch. And the lead character is this gruff detective, Hank Voight. I know nothing about this Hank Voight character. I know nothing about him before I watch the show for the first time. First episode, was it an origin story of Hank Voight? Going back to when he was a kid deciding he wanted to be a police officer and then his days in the academy and then the day he graduates to be a cop. Did I get an origin story? No. They just start that show, episode 1, with him. He's already a gritty cop in the city of Chicago doing his thing. And guess what? Through the story, I got to know who he is. And you can do the same. Now, you're right. Origin stories can be very beneficial. You can lay that foundation, but it's only one way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, right? It's certainly an effective way to do it, but also certainly not the only way to do it. We can get to know the character, become familiar with them, understand the story, get a grounding in who they are without necessarily having to use an origin story to do it. We didn't get an origin story for this Spider-Man. Now, you can make the argument that, well, that's because in the last number of years, we've already had 2 other versions of Spider-Man origins being told. Legitimate argument. But I still think that this Spider-Man stands on its own. And I think you can do it. Now, but here's the other interesting thing. They say they're not doing an origin story, right? They're saying they're just starting it off where she's already part of the Kree Force and all that kind of stuff. That's great. But this is one of the pictures that's been coming out. Her days on Earth as an Air Force pilot. So I have a feeling that we are clearly going to get some groundwork of the origin story of Captain Marvel in this movie. Maybe this movie doesn't start with the origin story. Maybe the origin story is told in flashbacks or whatever as the movie progresses. Maybe it's just being done a different way and using a different, not having to go back to that same origin story formula that a lot of other films have used, and maybe they're just doing it that way. Bottom line is this. I think there are definitely going to be origin story elements in this movie. This picture is just kind of proof of that. But beyond that, even if they don't, it's not really necessary. Can it be beneficial? Yeah. But is it necessary? Not necessarily. Not if you do it right. So I'm okay with it. I think you should be okay with it. Fact of the matter is, we're all just interpreting a lot of stuff. Let's wait and see what happens when the movie actually comes out. All right, let's move on now to the 4th email in today. And the 4th email in today comes to us from Sean Manford, who writes, Hey John, big fan from London. Thank you so much, Sean. In 2017, there was a brief rumor of some sort of return to the Matrix. But the Wachowskis have kind of disappeared after changes in their personal life and doesn't seem interested in movies or the Matrix. In this era of remakes, franchises, and sequels, does it surprise you that this amazing concept of movie making virtually died after Revolutions in 2003? Keep it filthy, bro. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Sean. And you know what? It wasn't just in 2017. There's been talks and whispers and rumors and all this kind of stuff of going back to the Matrix again for years. It wasn't just 2017. It's been going on for a long time, whether it's just pure baseless fan speculation or somebody talked about, well, we've been talking about something, whether that, there's been a lot of talk about going back to the Matrix. I'd argue since 2005. Really, it's been a long time. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, while I quite enjoyed the second Matrix. I quite enjoyed this. I believe it was Matrix Reloaded. I like Matrix Reloaded. I thought Seraph was a great character. I actually quite enjoyed it. Not as much as the first one. The first one was clearly better. But I liked it. A lot of people didn't like it, though. Oh, I even loved the twins and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but a lot of people did not like the second Matrix. Okay. It wasn't like hated and spit on, but a lot of people didn't like it. Okay. Then you get to Matrix Revolutions. A lot of people hated that movie. And I wasn't a big fan of it either. I didn't like it. I liked the first two, and a lot of people only liked the first one. Third one was a weak finish. To the point that I know a lot of movie fans that only consider the first Matrix movie being the only Matrix movie. There are film fans that I know that consider there only being one Matrix movie, and that was the first one. So you got to keep that in consideration, is that it's a franchise that really did limp across the finish line. Now, you got some Animatrix stuff and all that. Honestly, I thought the Animatrix stuff was a little overrated. It was pretty good, but I thought it got more praise than what it actually deserved. But at any rate, but then you look at the Wachowskis since then. And really, frankly, they haven't directed anything that's gotten a lot of praise. And they have directed some just universally horrible movies. Not the least of which was, I believe, the last one they did, which was Jupiter Ascending, which, quite frankly, is one of the worst motion pictures I've ever seen. It's got to be in the top 20 of the worst motion pictures I've ever seen. I remember, I'll never forget this. Some of you might have heard this story before, but me, Dennis Zen, and John Schnepp. One evening we're hanging out and we decided we're going to do a double feature. So the show times at the AMC Burbank 16 lined up perfectly for us to go in and watch Seventh Son, and then right after, like 5 minutes after it, Jupiter Ascending. Obviously, the worst double feature I've ever seen in my life. It became incredibly memorable, and we talked about it a lot after that. And I remember Schnepp just kept laughing at me because I'm watching Jupiter Ascending, and it's so bad. I had literally, you ever see a movie that's so bad that you just become embarrassed for the people involved? And like, I was literally covering my face and stomping my feet going, oh my God, this is so bad. It's awful. Better than what I could do, but I'm not the standard of excellence, am I? It was brutally awful. Irredeemably bad. Just absolutely irredeemably bad. The one thing I'll say for it, it's got some nice visual effects. It does. It does. Beyond that, it is an absolutely irredeemable movie. Just horrible. So, looking at the fact that Matrix kind of finished on a whimper, with the fact that the Wachowskis really haven't done anything exceptional since, it's not really all that surprising. And I think, the Matrix is still so fresh, really, in the pop culture's mind, even though it was so many years ago. Came out the same year as The Phantom Menace. In case you forgot how long ago The Matrix came out. It is still very, very fresh in the pop culture's mind, right? So, honestly, I'm really not all that surprised we haven't seen anything. Now, look, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised also if we did hear some kind of announcement sometime in the near future about revisiting The Matrix and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not surprised we haven't yet, and I won't be surprised if we don't ever hear about revisiting The Matrix, to be honest with you. All right, let's move on to the fifth and final email today. And the fifth and final email today comes to us from AsshatQX, who writes, everybody is talking about how December 21st is packed with Bumblebee, Aquaman, Holmes and Watson, Welcome to Marwen, and Alita Battle Angel. And don't forget about Mary Poppins, it's in the same week. But so is November 21st. On that day, we have Creed 2, Wreck-It Ralph 2, The Green Book, Robin Hood, and The Frontrunner. What are the dangers of so many movies coming out on the same day? Lots of studios will lose lots of money if this continues to be a trend. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, November 21st is also a very, very, very packed day. Hugely packed day. The difference between November 21st, though, and the December 21st traffic jam is that on the November 21st traffic jam, you have several high-profile, potentially blockbuster films. In that same week, you have Mortal Engines, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You got Bumblebee. You got Alita Battle Angel. You got Aquaman. I mean, these are all potentially big blockbuster films. Then you got some smaller ones to go along with it. Welcome to Marwen, Holmes and Watson, Mary Poppins. So you get this big glut of potentially huge blockbuster films. I would argue, let's go back to your list here. I would argue that, okay, Creed 2 has potential to be a blockbuster, so does Wreck-It Ralph 2. Green Book's not going to be a blockbuster. Robin Hood is not going to be a blockbuster. And The Frontrunner's not going to be a blockbuster. So instantly right there, it's a little bit different from the December 21st date. But still, why put out so many movies on that day? The reason is actually really simple. It's Thanksgiving Day weekend. That Wednesday, the 21st, is the day before Thanksgiving. People get off work early, and they almost all have the next day off work. That is a day, traditionally, at the box office, lots and lots and lots and lots of people go to the movies. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people go to the movies on that day every year. So it's kind of like this. The fishing holes that have more fish, you'll see more fishermen at, right? Because there are more fish to catch. That's what you're getting with December 21st. That's the mentality behind the December 21st thing is, hey, it's the Christmas season. It's proven. Tons of people go to see the movies over the Christmas season. That's when we should release our film. But then it gets a little bit too overcrowded. But the November 21st thing is kind of the same philosophy. It's a day that a lot of people go to the movies. It's a holiday weekend. A lot of people going out to the movies. Not quite as much as Christmas. And that's why you're seeing that. And unlike the December 21st date that's got like 5 or 6 potential big blockbusters, you really only got 2 and then a couple of smaller films. So the question is, yes, there's a bunch of fishermen there. Creed 2, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Frontrunner, Robin Hood. You got a lot of fishermen there. But there's a lot of fish in that pond. There's a lot of us going to the movies on that date. That's why you're seeing that glut right there. Now, is it overcrowded? I think it's not. Because, like I said, if there were 2 or 3 more potential huge blockbusters, maybe then it would. But I think there's going to be enough people going to the movies to sustain that group of films. I'm not so sure the same can be said about the December 21st date. So there you go. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Now, normally this is the part of the show where we would have live questions, but since we're not streaming the show live today, not really doing that. Listen, guys, don't forget, we're going to be back again tomorrow morning at the John Campea Show. Hopefully we'll be up and live streaming again. Thanks so much for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.